Welcome to this new chapter. We are so excited to have you here. It's a pleasure to have you with another relevant topic who will impact your students, your community, and help them to make their post-secondary dreams come true. Our goal is provide you with the most resources as possible and help you out to find the best way to support our students in order to go to college. My name is Ligia Sosel. I'm the Director of College Access here at the Indiana Latino Institute. Today we have a special guest who's going to tell us everything about the migratory status. Her name is Christina, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hello,
Welcome,
my name
Christina.
is Christina Arome Garza, and I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Operating Officer with the Immigrant Welcome Center, and we are located in Central Indiana. And today I have just the really exciting opportunity to share with you a little bit more from an educational purpose on the different statuses. I want to caveat by saying that I am not a licensed attorney. This is not legal advice, but this is just educational purposes for communities out there on the different types of statuses that we do typically see here in Indiana and amongst our youth. And so before we dive into the different statuses, I do want to share a little bit about our overview of understanding migration and why people migrate. So there are some push and pull factors that contribute to migration worldwide. The push factors are if people are being pushed out of their homes, out of their countries, and oftentimes that will be due to war, due to climate changes, due to opportunities and resources. And so they're forced to leave. And then there's a lot of pull factors of what draws people to come to another country and to leave their home country to go to another one. And so those we see often are family. So they're either, wanting to meet up with their family, or they're wanting to have access to better opportunity or resources, healthcare, education, a lot of reasons that compel people to be pulled into another country. And so what we're seeing in Indiana, some of this data is from our census as well as our Migration Policy Institute that we have here shown. This data shows us that in Indiana, we have a large foreign-born population. It is 6.3 across the whole state. And you're going to see more concentration in some of the bigger cities. So we have concentrations in Marion County and Indianapolis, up in Fort Wayne, down south as well. In Evansville, we're seeing populations kind of concentrate there. Of our foreign-born population, we know that a majority of them are going to be Latin American descent, and then that's followed by Asian, then African and European. In the United States and Indiana, you can see that the top two are the same. So Mexico is leading the way of population here in Indiana and in the United States. It starts to shift a little bit in that third, fourth, and fifth place. So in Indiana, we have Nigeria. We have a huge Nigerian population, and then Chinese population and Burmese population. And we'll talk a little bit about the different populations and statuses as we continue. So when working with students, we do want to make sure that we are building trust with them and we're respecting their choices, whether to share with us their statuses or not. Bear in mind that sometimes they might not know what their status is, or they might be part of a mixed status family. Mixed status family means that different people within that family unit have different statuses. And everything is so individualized. It really just depends on the person. And it's really just one-on-one situation. It could be, some opportunities offered for one family member might not be offered for another. It depends on when they came here to the United States and how they came and what connections they have. So there's a lot of different variables in determining kind of what their status is. If you don't need to know, then it's don't need to ask, right? Asking is on a need to know kind of basis. And so oftentimes in this space, we're asking so that we can help them think about college and career and think about their college opportunities of what does financing college look like, and things like that. So if you're working with them, just keep some of these things in mind. We're going to talk about some of the most common ones, but these are not an exclusive list. So there's many, many more statuses, but these are probably the most common ones that we're seeing in this space of working with immigrant youth in Indiana. So the first one is undocumented youth. And so that is someone who is foreign born. They're born somewhere else and they're here without legal authorization. This could be one of kind of two ways. Either they've entered the United States without inspection. So the most common one we see is if they've crossed the border. So we do see different nationalities now crossing the border without inspection. Before it was primarily, Latin American countries that we're seeing, but most recently we've started to see an increase in more other populations, such as Indian population, Chinese population. We have been seeing some movement around the undocumented status. And so one way is to come and cross the border. Another way is to overstay their visa. So they have been given permission to come to the United States. Sometimes it's a tourist visa or a working visa. And then they will they will stay here after their visa expired, thus making them undocumented. The next is DACA, which stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And so these was a particular group of individuals who came to the United States before a certain time, and they were typically minors in that. So they didn't have the decision really about coming. They might have come with their undocumented family members, so their parents might be undocumented, but then they had applied for and received DACA status. This is not an option for this year, the 2025. They do receive employment authorization documents, so they're able to work in the US. So it's a little bit different than undocumented who don't have those privileges, but it's certainly a common group that you might come across in Indiana. And there's about an estimate of maybe 11,000 students who are DACA recipients here. Then we have our LPR green card, as it's called, a lawful permanent resident. Our green card holders, they can live and work here in the United States. And so many of them perhaps have become green card holders through family petitions, so through family members, perhaps also through employment or work. So there's different pathways for that. And this is a pathway to citizenship for many. And so they're able to have a social security card and number and use that. And so this is just one of the different statuses that you may come across. Asylum seekers is someone who is fleeing from their country and entering through a port of entry. So oftentimes people are seeking asylum, which means they have come to a port of entry, a designated port of entry to the United States, saying, help me, I am seeking asylum for this or that reason. It could be political, it could be religious, there's different reasons. Then they will be able to be processed and either decided that they can come into the United States, and they will go through several year-long process for proving to the courts that they have a case worthy of seeking asylum or not. And so we see a lot of asylum seekers recently coming from different communities. Many that we see right now were coming from Central South American countries as well as Haiti, because there's been some political unrest and criminal activities happening. And so they are saying, hey, we can't live where we are, and we're here seeking asylum and help. Refugees are another category of individuals who are outside of the US who qualify for refugee status based on their country. And so they are then placed through a resettlement agency. There are only 10 in the United States that do this processing. And so the refugees, the country in which are deemed to we can accept refugees from, there is a list and it does change sometimes, but we will see the most common ones in Indiana being of the Burmese population, Congolese population, most recently Afghan population as well. So these are individuals who had a already migration path a lot of times and have left their country to a refugee camp before being placed through the United States through one of the 10 agencies who then have sub agencies and work here in Indiana. And so they receive some support for their resettlement. And unlike some of the other groups that don't have an organization supporting them. So that's how it shows up a little bit different. We also have TPS, which is a temporary protective status. As the name suggests, it is temporary. So this is not a pathway to citizenship. Sometimes they are extended and sometimes they're not extended. So we did see TPS extended a few times for our Venezuelan population. And then we've seen it not be extended at times. And so right now, with people who have TPS, it gives them certain authority, legal authority to work here in the US. If they are not able to renew it and they don't have another pathway, they then risk becoming undocumented. We also have parolees. They are permitted to physically be in the US due to an urgent humanitarian matter. So certain countries may qualify for that as well. So you'll see some people, coming in as parolees. There could be people that have come in through the same country, but each, have a different one of these statuses. So you might meet a person from Haiti who has come and, who's seeking asylum and going through the asylum proceedings, or who is here with TPS as a temporary protective status. So you might have some populations that have different statuses. You'll see some of our Mexican neighbors with LPR or green cards. You'll also see some of them undocumented or with DACA. So it could be from the same country, but their circumstances are different and when they came were different. So it's really unique to the individual. Then we also see some, in rare cases, U visas and T visas, SIJS. These are for non-citizen victims of certain crimes here in the US. So they might have experienced some violent crimes, or they might have witnessed some crimes, or been part of human trafficking. And so we do have some youth that go through these experiences and do qualify for some of these statuses. Again, I just want to, emphasize that, these are a few of the most common ones that you'll encounter, and that, each person is individual. And so they might have different cases, siblings might have different statuses. So let's not make some assumptions, based on what we know so far of the student and their family, but really try to find out what status they do have so that the different opportunities we present to them and work with them can show up. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment.
Thank you, Christina, for giving us this overview. As you say, the citizenship status can impact our students in multiple ways. And for example, we can talk about a little bit how they can limit access to scholarship can be one of the things that can happen with different status that our students present. For example, they can be eligible or not eligible for FAFSA is one of the things that we'll be talking here in Indiana Latino Institute when you guys come, and we check all your documentation. We can define, and don't worry, we have right here all the resources to provide you with this information. As we know, we have the the main concepts, the how to understand the citizenship statuses. And when we understand the citizenship status, the teachers, educators, counselors can understand better how to support these students for when the applications for college, and the applications for scholarships, and the application for FAFSA mainly. The tuition is another topic that is really relevant and important for us because our students who are eligible or not eligible can have to pay out of the state or they can pay in a state tuition, and that can impact a lot their choices of universities and education. The other part that is impacting over students according to their citizenship is the study choices that they make. For example, if they would like to study something related to nursing, medicine, education, social work, here in Indiana, if the student doesn't have a social security number, this will limit a little bit their options, but that doesn't mean that the students cannot go to college. We always have an option. We always have the way to guide our students. We do career exploration. If you're interested in something related to that, we can work it around, but we need to be conscious and let our students know that they will have to change their career path or they have to find another choices, but we can support them with them. This doesn't mean the education will be a limit. What this means is when the student have to go and do the professional practice, if they don't have the social security or authorized to work, it will be a little difficult for them to perform to perform in their job. But we always have the opportunity here to find different resources according to their migratory status. Thank you, Christina. And
Yeah, so we wanted to share with you all some additional resources in education. Of course, come to either of us, either at the Indiana Latino Institute or the Immigrant Welcome Center for resources. Our resource page that I've highlighted there is an opportunity to look for resources by zip code across the state for immigrant families and then share it to them in their native language. So it's a really helpful and useful tool for those working with immigrant families. There's some national resources as well if you're interested in wanting to learn more. So we have the American Immigration Council of Indiana fact sheet. So it just gives you some data on the different facts about immigrants that shows up here in Indiana. We also have linked here the Federal Student Aid Understanding Eligibility of Non-Citizens. So it helps you understand a little bit deeper on, okay, if I have a student with this status, what might they be eligible for or be able to qualify for?
thank you. That's absolutely right. And I'm so glad you provide these wonderful resources, Christina. This is really useful for all the teachers, counselors, and everybody who's working with youth these days. And we appreciate you provide all of this. And if you guys need some support and additional help, you can contact Indiana Latino Institute. We have a phone number. They connect at the website as well. And you can just reach out to us and we can provide you additional information on how to support our families and your students out there. Just remember, at the Indiana Latino Institute, all the services that we provide are free and available for everybody. We receive students without worrying about the status, the migratory status. We support them the same way, all of them. Oh, do you have something else to add, dear Christina?
No, we're grateful for the work that you all do, and we hope that you continue to walk along with our students in that work. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina, for your wonderful participation. And you have the information with Christina in here and the Immigrant Welcome Center. That is a wonderful resource for all the families. So thank you for being with us this day. We really appreciate the hard work you guys are doing at the schools and for helping our students to make their post-secondary dreams come true. It's been a pleasure for us.